Welcome to Age's Fury. Randall Cox here. Hey, today we're going to talk about dealing with weight loss issues, how that's impacting society, and maybe some things that we can do to help manage it. If this is your first time here, start by subscribing now. Let's get those notifications turned on so that you don't miss anything. Now, currently in the United States, the obesity rate is approaching 40%. You've got another 30% that's overweight. So when we combine that, we're talking about 70% of the US population that's dealing with health-related issues because of their body weight. And you even have some cities in the US that rate is over 80%. Now, this is a huge problem as our healthcare costs start to skyrocket. Now, every year in the United States, 45 million people go on a diet. They spend $33 billion on weight loss products. Of those 45 million people, 95% will fail, okay? Average diet lasts about 5 weeks. At that point, people get frustrated, they give up, they quit, and they go back to their old eating habits. Now, part of the problem is with the weight gain is it slows down our metabolism. So 70% of the calories that you burn happens when your body's in a resting metabolic state. So, it makes sense to understand why, 95% of every diet fails, because your body is working to keep that body fat on by slowing down your metabolism. So once you put on, this excess weight, your body, it's not as efficient at burning calories as it should be, And look, we really never want to reduce calories this just isn't something that we can do long term. Our body needs calories. It needs that for our energy source. And figuring out the correct number of calories, yes, that can be a little bit difficult, but, it's something that we need to understand and get to that point if we want to have some success. And of course, it's easy for me to sit here and tell you, you need to eat, more healthy, nutritious foods. But we all know that's a lot easier said than done. But, when you start looking at the calorie reduction, that's something that, we can do for a short amount of time, but it's hard to sustain. And yes, there are some people that can, they can maintain that calorie restriction for a little bit longer period of time, but eventually they're going to fail because their bodies are not designed that way. We need those calories, but we need good calories. Now, when we're overweight, we're dealing with, the messages that get sent to our brains, right? So these reward messages, that are going to our brains, it's like, hey, we want more food, right? So, there's a lot going on in our minds when we're dealing with these food issues that we're struggling to control. I mean, simply telling somebody, well, you need to eat less food. Okay, that's not an option, because what needs to happen is there needs to be a behavioral change in our lives. And that's something that isn't going to happen, overnight. Now, what you have as part of the problem is, for a lot of people, they've been eating the wrong foods and too much food for too long a period of time, right? For many years. And you can kind of look at that as almost genetic in how they were raised and the foods that they were brought up on. That's a behavioral change that we need to fix. And look, being overweight is very challenging, and that, that's a place that we never want to be, and try as we might, ultimately, a lot of people end up failing, right? So how do you overcome that challenge? Well, this goes back to conquering, small steps one at a time, right? So let's say that you make a list of 10 foods and beverages that, you eat or drink on a daily or a weekly basis that are not good for you, right? Okay, our first step is let's eliminate one, okay? Now, how long that takes is up to you, but you need to conquer that. Right? You can't go backwards. From there, then you can progress to your step 2 and so forth. Now, when we're overweight, our focus needs to be on our eating habits and the changes, that we need to make. And I can tell you what's probably not going to happen is a complete overhaul to your eating habits, in one day, okay? Look, in reality, this is a much slower process than what you want because, people want to lose as much weight as possible and as quickly as possible, and it doesn't work that way. These things take time. Now, and there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all eating plan, right? So everybody is different. They have different activity levels. There's age differences. There's size differences. There's, our muscle content, our fat content. All these things play into the amount of calories that we need. But we need those calories for fuel, right? So, of course, figuring that out, can be a little bit difficult. But that's why we start small, right? We want to clean up our eating by replacing those unhealthy foods with healthy foods. Now, another important part here is, look, you need to enjoy that healthy food that you're eating, okay? Because trust me, how long do you think you're going to eat a food that you don't like? Okay, I can tell you the answer to that is not long. Now, using myself as an example, so I never used to eat beans. I don't know why. Maybe it's the way they were cooked. I don't know. I just never ate them. Now I eat beans almost every day. And I can tell you it has, been a huge plus for me in taking that nutritious meal and replacing an unhealthy meal with it, right? Game changer for me. Now at this stage, I seldom eat bad foods. Now I do have on occasion what I call my event days, where, I do eat unhealthy things, and I get that. But, I try to limit that to, honestly, maybe 5-6 times a year. So it's not a lot. And trust me, you're going to have, some issues staying consistent, especially when you're just starting out. The main thing here is that, you can't eat poorly consecutive days, right? So you had a bad eating day, okay. You just really need to focus on the fact, I can't let that happen back-to-back days. Now, I've been talking about these steps, right? So maybe one avenue might be, okay, I'm going to eat healthy every other day. Now, that's not optimal, but it's a step in the right direction. Or maybe you want to process that, might be easier, on a daily basis, right? So say you're eating 4 unhealthy meals a day. I'm going to replace one of those with a healthy meal. I'm going to conquer that. I'm going to stay that course, and then I can move to step 2, which is 2 healthy meals. Hopefully 3 healthy meals. Hopefully I get to the point to where, it's all healthy meals, okay? Now, if you've been struggling, with your failure to lose weight, I can tell you you're probably trying to take too big of a step right out of the gate. You need to change that strategy. If we can take smaller steps along that path, it's going to lead us where we need to be, okay? I promise these small steps will lead up to big changes over time. So, let's say that your goal was, hey, I want to lose, 50 pounds. Well, you lost 10 pounds or you lost 20 pounds, so you didn't hit your 50, but you're still ahead of where you started. Now, like in the past, maybe you start a diet program and you actually gain 10 pounds over the first year. Clearly it didn't work and you wonder why. Well, I can tell you, you probably took too big of a step right out of the gate. Look, it's important to have these small improvements along the way. They're going to motivate us. Okay, if you're the type of person that you eat something bad and you feel guilty, hey, that's great, right? It's a good start. And I think most of us understand the foods and beverages that we shouldn't eat. Now, if you don't, there needs to be an education and ageless fury. I do have a number of videos. I do get into nutrition and I do talk about those foods. So you may want to check those out. I think that might be able to help you along your path. Now, it's also important that we focus on our portion size, right? So let's say it's, 2 burgers and a large fry at the drive-thru, okay? You reduce that down to 1 burger and a small fry. Now, that's not optimal at all because honestly, we shouldn't be eating fast food at all. But you've made some progression there, right? So, rather than a large Coke, it's a large water, right? These are small steps along that path to getting us to where we need to be, right? It's beneficial. Now, for me personally, I eat a good amount of, calories every day. I've got the proper amount of my macronutrients in the form of my my carbohydrates, my proteins, and my fats. Now, I realize right now there's a very popular diet out there about reducing carbohydrates, okay? And hey, that works for some people. Doesn't work for me, but you know, for the people that can make that work for them, well, hey, that's great. Now, an important part of that equation when we start talking about carbohydrates is the type of carbohydrate that you're eating. Because if you're eating a highly processed, high-starch carbohydrate, well, there's going to be problems, okay? Those highly processed foods, I mean, they're loaded up with bad oils and sugar and all these things that are going to spike our insulin, and those calories are going to be stored in our body as fat. Now, seeking advice from a healthcare professional is always advantageous, you know, just to make sure that there's no underlying health conditions there, you know, dealing with our weight loss. Maybe they can give some advice on weight loss, but ultimately that task is up to you. Now, I'm not a healthcare professional, so, you know, I can't give anybody medical advice, but hey, have a look at me at age 50. Now look at me at age 60. Okay, you can see that there was a transition in my life. And I can tell you right now, that wasn't from dieting or reducing my calories. It was by changing my eating habits to eating more healthy, nutritious meals. Now, I preach a lot about consistency in our eating and the significance that plays in helping us along our journey. And this is not just in our eating, but also in our exercise. You need to be consistent. Now, ultimately, hey, that's up to you, right? Now, hopefully, the information that I've shared with you today, that, you know, you can take that and you know, use it to your benefit. And if just one person takes this information and, you know, on their 90th birthday, they look back and say, hey, you know, that was a turning point in my life, then that's awesome. Hey, please leave your comments as I work with people on their quest for better health. If you're looking for more programs to help you have that weight loss, the nutrition, or your exercise goals, follow me on YouTube and Instagram. Thank you.